My friends, today I want to speak to you about a God who never forgets, a God who keeps record of every tear, every sacrifice, every prayer whispered in the dark. Sometimes you feel like life has taken more from you than you can bear. You gave your best. You served faithfully. You trusted when others doubted. Yet it seems as if the reward never came. But hear me, when God repays, He never repays equal to what was lost. He repays with interest. Many times, when God seems to delay, our hearts grow weary and our minds begin to question, Lord, why is it taking so long? But what we fail to see is that divine delay is not divine denial. God's timing is not a punishment. It's preparation. When God delays, He is not ignoring your prayers. He is perfecting what concerns you. The same God who promised you breakthrough knows the exact moment to release it, so that when it arrives, you are ready to carry it. In the silence, He's developing your strength, shaping your character, and teaching you to trust Him beyond what you can see. The delay is the space where faith grows deep roots. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up the next day to check if it's growing. You water it, you wait, and you trust that something is happening beneath the surface. That's how God works with His promises. While you think nothing is moving, He's aligning circumstances, moving people, and preparing divine opportunities in your favor. The delay is heaven's construction zone. You may not see the blueprint, but God is laying the foundation for something greater than you imagined. 40. If He gave it too early, it would crush you instead of bless you. That's why the delay is necessary. It ensures that what you receive won't slip through your hands. God's process is not to harm you, but to build you into the kind of person who can handle the blessing with wisdom and maturity. David was anointed king long before he wore the crown. Joseph dreamed of greatness long before he saw the palace. And Abraham was promised a son long before he held Isaac. Every one of them went through seasons of delay, but those seasons were divine investments. Every tear, every prayer, every act of obedience during the waiting is like seed in the ground. God is storing your faithfulness like treasure. And when the time is right, He releases it all with divine interest. So when you face delays, don't despise them. Look at them as divine deposits into your future. The longer the wait, the greater the return, because God never delays without purpose. He's multiplying the outcome while preparing your heart to receive it. When something is taken from you, a relationship, an opportunity, a dream, it's easy to believe that it's gone forever. You look at what slipped through your hands and think it's over. But in God's economy, nothing that is surrendered to Him is ever truly lost. What you placed in His hands might look buried, but it's actually being multiplied. God never allows loss without the intention of restoration. When He removes something, it's often to make room for something far greater. The seed that dies in the ground does not vanish. It transforms into something alive and abundant. There are moments when it feels like life has robbed you. You gave your best, but things still fell apart. You prayed, yet doors closed. You trusted, yet people walked away. But the truth is, what you thought was loss was actually divine redirection. God hides your blessings in seasons of loss so that your heart learns to depend not on what you had, but on who He is. The enemy may have meant it for harm, but God has already written it into your victory story. Nothing surrendered in faith ever comes back the same. It always returns multiplied. Think of Job. He lost everything: his wealth, his children, his health. But when God repaid him, it was double. Think of Joseph. He was thrown into a pit and sold into slavery. Yet, what looked like betrayal became the bridge to his destiny. What they lost became the platform for their increase. When you walk with God, even your losses are investments. The enemy may take what's visible, but God is building something invisible that will outlast every attack. So don't cry over what's gone. Commit it to God. He is the God who restores time, opportunity, and strength. He is the Redeemer who takes broken pieces and crafts them into testimonies. Sometimes He has to let you lose certain things because He knows what He's preparing next requires a greater capacity. The things that were removed were never wasted. They were placed in God's process. What looks like subtraction is actually multiplication in disguise, because when God handles what you've lost, He always returns it with interest. When God repays, He never gives back in equal measure. He restores in overflow. His system is not based on fairness. It's based on favor. The world says you get what you earn, but God says you receive what His grace multiplies. When He restores, He doesn't simply balance the scales, He tips them in your favor. The pain you endured, the prayers you prayed, the tears you shed, they become seeds of abundance that produce more than you lost. God is not a God of equal exchange. He is the God of divine increase. In Scripture, we see this principle over and over again. When the Israelites left Egypt, they didn't just escape slavery. They left carrying the silver and gold of their oppressors. When Job's trial ended, he didn't just get back his old life. He received twice as much as before. When Peter obeyed Jesus to cast his net again, he didn't just catch a few fish. He caught so many that the nets began to break. That's how God repays. He doesn't return things to the way they were. He restores them in a way that exceeds human logic. When you've been through loss, betrayal, or pain, it's easy to expect only partial restoration. You may think, if I can just get back to where I was, I'll be grateful. But God says, I'm not bringing you back to where you were. I'm taking you beyond where you've been. The very areas where you suffered will become the greatest sources, of your blessing. The tears you sowed in one season become laughter in the next. What was meant to break you becomes the platform that lifts you. God's repayment always comes with interest because He's a God of covenant. He never forgets the labor of your love, your silent endurance, or your faith in the dark. While others may have overlooked you, heaven has kept account. When the time of repayment arrives, it comes suddenly and abundantly. You will look at your life and say, this is more than I expected. That's how God restores not by giving back what you lost, by overwhelming you with what only His hand can provide. His blessings don't just fill your cup, they make it overflow until it touches everyone around you. God never overlooks faithfulness, even when no one else sees it. Every moment you stayed consistent, every time you chose obedience over convenience, every tear you wiped in silence, heaven recorded it. The world may forget, but God never forgets. Your hidden season, the one where you kept believing even when nothing changed, is the very foundation for your public reward. God uses the unseen places to shape your spirit and prepare your heart. What He builds in private, He reveals in power. The quiet sacrifices, the unseen service, the prayers whispered when no one noticed. These are the seeds that trigger divine repayment. In God's kingdom, faithfulness is never wasted. While others chase recognition, God looks for endurance. He tests hearts in secret before He rewards them in the open. David tended sheep in the fields long before he stood before Goliath. Joseph managed prison cells before he managed Pharaoh's palace. Ruth served faithfully in obscurity before she was noticed by Boaz. Every hidden act of obedience positioned them for public favor. God often hides His chosen ones not to punish them, but to protect and prepare them for what's ahead. When you remain faithful in the hidden places, you show God that your trust is not dependent on applause. You serve not for people's approval, but for His purpose. And when the time is right, God pulls back the curtain. The very same people who overlooked you will witness your elevation. Your faithfulness becomes the key that unlocks divine visibility. God doesn't promote based on popularity. He promotes based on persistence. Sometimes you may feel like your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling, or your work is going unnoticed. But the truth is, God is storing every act of faithfulness like a treasure, waiting for the appointed time. He is a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him. Even when it seems no one is watching, your consistency in private is what qualifies you for abundance in public. The same hands that served in silence will one day hold the reward of open blessing. When God repays, He brings you out of hiding and sets you in a place of honor where your faithfulness speaks louder than your words. So, my dear friends, if you're walking through a season where it feels like you've given much and gained little, hold on. Heaven has not forgotten you. Every tear, every prayer, every step of faith is being stored up in God's ledger of remembrance. He is not just preparing a return. He is preparing a return with interest. The waiting is not wasted. The pain is not pointless. The silence is not empty. God is aligning everything in His perfect timing. Soon, you will stand in the very place where you once wept and say, "This is what God was doing all along." What was lost will be restored. What was delayed will be delivered. What was broken will be rebuilt stronger than before. Because when God repays, He doesn't just give back, He gives beyond. He turns every loss into legacy, every test into testimony, and every struggle into strength. So lift your hands in faith today and say, "Lord, I trust your repayment plan, because the God who watched you in private is about to reward you in public. Your story is not ending in loss. It's about to overflow with divine increase. Get ready, because when God repays you, it will come pressed down, shaken together, and running over with heavenly interest attached.